Hello, my name's Matt Polley, and this is my preview for the first day of the Grand National Aintree meeting, the Thursday. Just previewing the first day, and as per usual, the first thing to mention is the state of the ground. It's currently good to soft, good in places. There is some light rain forecast, so in an ideal world, be nice to see one race before we started having any firm opinions on any races, but that is the price we have to pay for previewing these meetings. So we go in slightly blind, but all selections will be based on the going being slightly on the soft side of good, but certainly no softer than that. So on that basis, we'll start with the first race, which is Grade 1 Novice Chase over 2.5 miles. Interesting race. Quite a few horses stepping up in grade here to try and snatch a bit of Grade 1 victory. The market is likely to be headed by Fusel, Raffles and Hitman. You can see why. Hitman is a lovely horse. He's only a 5-year-old. I think ultimately he will turn out to be the best horse in this race, but whether these conditions are 100% in his favour is slightly questionable. He'd definitely be the one I'd take out of the race for the future, but obviously we're just talking about tomorrow now. So I just wonder whether decent ground on a sharpish track like Aintree, which takes some jumping, is absolutely ideal for this horse at this stage of his career. But certainly wouldn't be a surprise if he won. But there might be a little bit of value elsewhere. Fusel Raffles likes good ground. I think the step up to 2.5 miles. Well, not the step up to, but continuation of running at 2.5 miles would be in his favour. I think ultimately he'll get 3 miles in time, and he finished second over 2.5 miles in the Marsh, but that race was marred by the fall of Envoy Allen. So not to take anything away from Chantry House and Fusel Raffles that filled the first 2 spaces in that race, but it was definitely the fall of or the unseat of the fall of Envoy Allen was definitely detracted from the result in that race. So I think there's reasons to take on the front 2 in the market. Eldorado Allen finished second in the Arkle, but I think that was by default. Personally, Shishkin won it as he liked in a canter, and basically the rest followed him home, and he did the best of those. Phoenix Way bled last time. I think he's got a bit to prove. The shunter pulled off the bonus at Cheltenham, but as we well know, following up after a hard race at Cheltenham is not always as straightforward as we might think. I think it's definitely something to note over the course of the meeting that a lot of horses will struggle to follow up their performances from Cheltenham, and they might appear to be well at home, look well in their coats and eating and doing their exercise sufficiently, but you never truly know how much they've taken out of themselves until they reappear, and this is quite a short space of time after, let's be honest, Cheltenham is the pinnacle, and most of the horses that appear there have been primed specifically for that day, and then sometimes they come here as an afterthought if it hasn't gone well at Cheltenham, or if they've been impressive at Cheltenham they come here and attempt to strike while the iron's hot. But we've got enough evidence to suggest that following up at Aintree after Cheltenham is not that easy. So we don't know how much it took out of the shunter winning that bonus, but regardless of that, he this is a step up in class for him. Umbrigado seems to have found his niche, jumping fences. He looked he always threatened to be a good horse over hurdles, but never delivered what he promised a lot of the time. But he seems to be doing that over fences now. But this is a huge step up on what he's done so far. So by process of elimination, it leaves me with Protectorat, who runs in the second colours of Mason and Ferguson. Obviously, the first colours being carried by Hitman. He looked much improved performer over fences than he was over hurdles in his first two starts on good ground. He's finished second in his last two starts over fences, but it went a bit pear-shaped, particularly on his latest start at Kelso. He has had a wind operation after that and wears a tongue tie for the first time tomorrow. So if that's a genuine excuse for why he runs so poorly at Kelso, I think the flat track here over 2.5 miles on good ground could suit this horse, and I think at the prices he's probably worth taking a chance with. So Protectorat in the first. The second race is the Juvenile Hurdle, another Grade 1, but I think there's arguably, without any disrespect, there's only arguably two potential Grade 1 horses running in this race, and that's Adagio and Montmirail. Adagio, already a few runs under his belt so far this season. His latest start was second in the Triumph Hurdle, which was a very good run, and arguably he has the best form in this race. Even though Montmirail has a string of ones next to his name, he's a work in progress. He's a big horse. He'll ultimately be a chaser, and I think Adagio's form probably just outweighs Montmirail's at this stage. So this basically boils down to battle-hardened experience and form in the book compared to potential. And at the prices, I think I'd rather be on Adagio's side than Montmirail's, despite the fact that Montmirail skipped Cheltenham and a flat course is likely to suit him. At least Adagio's been there and done it and is battle hardened, and I think if it comes to a fight over the last two, maybe Adagio, as long as that Cheltenham run hasn't taken anything out of him at the prices, I think he's probably the value of the two. Moving on to the Betway Bold Chase Grade 1. Usually a really good race this. Sometimes Gold Cup runners try and follow up in this race. It's a very short space between the Gold Cup and this race, and if I'm being brutally honest, on paper it looks a bit disappointing. There are half the field basically are not Grade 1 horses and are not likely to be, and the other half of the field are horses that have had plenty of opportunities at this level in the past and been successful, to be fair, but probably their days in the big time are limited. So just a quick run through the field. ASO, admirable horse, but I can't see him winning this. Clan de Zobo, first time cheek pieces, alarm bells ringing. On paper hasn't done a lot wrong this season, but for me he's underperformed so far this season. The track and the ground will be to his advantage here, but he's looked very flat to me so far this season. So, and he's the likely favourite, so definitely better value elsewhere. Clondell Castle's a handicapper whose rating has improved since he stepped up in trip. Track and ground will suit this horse, but you could see him running into a place maybe, but that's probably the best he can hope for. Militarian would need to start today. Mr. Fisher, who I liked at Cheltenham, pulled like a train over 2.5 miles last time. This step up to 3. Probably 3 miles is within his compass, but not if he's going to pull like he did at Cheltenham. And if there's any signs of that again, he won't stay this trip. Native River, highest rated horse in the race, arguably got the best form this season and possibly the best form overall. If the ground was on the soft side, I think he'd be a massive price. Not quite sure what price he is currently, maybe around 4 or 5 to 1. But if it was on the slower side, he'd definitely be the selection. He's likely to be the selection anyway by default. But Real Steel's the next horse in the race. He's shown next to nothing for Paul Nicholls in his 2 starts so far this season. So a leap of faith required to see a decent effort from him, despite the fact that he ran incredibly well in last season's Gold Cup. Tiger Roll, absolute legend, phenomenal horse, doesn't owe anyone anything. What can you say about him? Apart from the fact that he sprung back to life big time at Cheltenham last time in his favourite races with a cross-country chase, and basically won that on the bridle as he liked. He enjoyed the ground that day. The French horse he beat didn't. Maybe that exaggerated his winning performance, but even so, he must have a chance in this. He likes Liverpool. Maybe not the park course, but definitely likes the national course, doesn't he? He couldn't rule him out. He couldn't rule out a big run. And then waiting patiently, despite the fact there's 10 now, there's no miles on the clock, and finds it hard to win. So, as I said, by default, it's going to have to be Native River. If he can get out in the front, he'll be difficult to pass as per usual. So Native River in that, and then we move on to the Betway Aintree Hurdle Grade 1. Another poor Grade 1, unfortunately, in my eyes. We'll just run through this. Abracadabras has turned into a complete mystery horse for me. He fell last time early on in the Champion Hurdle. He still could win this on the bridle, but I'm getting a bit frustrated with him nowadays. Belvedere should be alright. He definitely stayed 2.5 mile on this ground. He's a class horse, but he's not getting any younger. McFabulous, despite his form figures and the fact that he's a fine looking horse, I've never been a fan of his. For me, he's got a touch of the might bites about him, and the sooner they go chasing with him, the better, because I think he'll struggle competing in Grade 1 hurdles indefinitely. Silver Streak, 2.5 miles, might be okay over it, but I'll look past him. So I'm going to go for Song for Someone in this race. He hasn't had a particularly hard season. 2 miles has always looked sharp for him. He always finishes his race strongly, stays 2 miles really strongly. I think a decent ground will probably be in his favour as well. So Betway Hurdle for me is going to go to Song for Someone. Fox Hunters, chance for the amateurs to get back into the swing of things, get back into the limelight, seeking glory. Over the national fences, Billaway is likely to be favourite in this. He's going to be too short for me. Looks an out-and-out stayer in the intermediate trip of 2 mile 5. Just might catch him out, although he's reunited with Patrick Mullins. 2 horses in this take my eye. Late Night Pass, who ran a storming race in the Fox Hunters at Cheltenham, was very keen that day, led them at quite a merry dance there. Only faded close home in that race. I think the drop back to 2 mile 5 will absolutely play in this horse's favour, and if Gina Andrews can get him in a decent rhythm over the first few fences, he could be really hard to catch. I think he has a chance to make all and win this race, and I'd take the veteran Tango de Jouy, trained by Venetia Williams at the ripe old age of 13. He's a solid horse, looks at safe conveyance. Lucy Turner's decent rider, and I think he'll plot a course round and run on into a place. So that covers the Fox Hunters. Really competitive race for the Close Brothers Red Rum Handicap Chase. Loads of horses in here with chances. The top 3 in the handicap are the most interesting in terms of the top weight getaway trump. Does not interest me at all off top weight. Very consistent horse, always runs well, but I think you're in the lap of the gods as to what he finds off the bridle. The two that really interest me are the next two down in the weights. Moon Over Germany is a course and distance winner. Hasn't had a hard season and is ridden by a very capable conditional Jordan Gainford, who takes 7 off his back, which is invaluable. But my selection in this race is Zanza, running off the same mark as he has done on his previous 2 starts. Pulled up at Cheltenham last time. Not sure Cheltenham's his track. I think he's a much better horse on a flat track. The time before that he fell when going easily 3 out against Sky Pirate and Iblio, who filled the 1st and 3rd spot in the Grand Annual. He hasn't moved from that mark, and I think he's really well handicapped in this. I think the flat track on good grounds, 2 miles, I think if he can get into a rhythm and avoid any trouble, I think Zanza is an absolute standout in this race in terms of handicap-wise, and conditions are absolutely bang in his favour. So Zanza to beat Moon Over Germany. And that leaves us with the Mares National Hunt race, in which Eileen Dover hopefully will star in this. I don't have any firm opinions on this race, but it would be nice to see Eileen Dover prove her potential for the Pam Sly Yard. And she's a short enough price favourite in this, and as we know, things don't always go to plan, but she missed Cheltenham intentionally to come here. That was always the plan, and fingers crossed she can do it for the Pam Sly Yard. So I think I've covered everything there on the Thursday, the first day of the Grand National meeting, and fingers crossed everyone comes back safe and sound, and good luck if you're having a bet. We'll see you tomorrow.